name is Dusty Hebling. I live in Ozark, Arkansas. I used to live here in Fort Smith at one time. And I had ties, I was mixed into several people. I had ties to this school because in 1952, it moved from the Northside High School Stadium, where the classes were at Fort Smith Junior College, to this location that was a county home for the elderly and the poor. And there was only 2 buildings out here. It opened in 1952 in September was the first semester, and I came to school here. And we only had probably less than 100 students, and maybe 100 at the most. But it was really interesting to see the difference. Now, when I came, they had one building up in front on Grand Avenue was the caretakers, administrators, brick 2-story home, and then they had a large, long building down here that had probably 3 stories, really 2 stories, large attic plus basement, and that was our classes. And we started out. Remember the stairways creak when you walked up; they were worn smooth from people going up and down. So it was a real exciting experience for me, and I really enjoy coming back here and seeing there's no way this could exist in my day when we looked around. And we figured maybe they'll put another building or 2 out here. They also were self-sufficient. They had a barn down here that's be right back over here, kind of the bottom of the slope, and they had their cows for their milk and chicken for eggs, and they raised their own produce and vegetables and everything here. So it was quite a unique little operation, and I don't know how many years. I know it probably from early 1900s up to 1950s that they had the county home here. I do historical research for a number of people, including the National Park Service Trails Division out of Santa Fe and the Sequoyah National Research Center at UALR, and the Cherokee and Seminole Nations, Choctaw, Chickasaws, Creek. Haven't done much with the Creek. It's mostly been with the Seminole and the Cherokee. And my job was to take the records from the officers during Indian removal and follow the trails and find where they actually went in today's landscape and everything. And it was amazing. I couldn't believe the accuracy. These officers say, okay, we camped at the creek so-and-so. And we traveled 12 miles and stopped at another creek and spent the night. And I'm driving down the road, and maybe dirt or gravel, but I'm driving 12 miles and there's the creek. I thought, how in the trouble do they get things so accurate? And it's amazing. So that's been my fun thing I've been doing since 1980. Let's see, I retired in 1984, I guess. But I brought a few things, just general items I wanted to share. This is one of the Northern Plains tribe drums. I called it the Thundering Herd, and I thought that would bring something a little bit different. It doesn't have to be a local area thing. So I've got this belt. The beadwork is in the 1930s, and it's Cheyenne did the beadwork, and then Creek did the leather belt for me. They took the beads off of another old worn-out belt and put it on this belt for me. Of course, we got Navajo on the belt buckle, and then I think this was Zuni on my cuff. Zuni, this is one that changes. I guess some of you may have seen one like this. You either got all silver or you flip it over and you got the turquoise. So it's kind of a neat little gadget that they had designed. And then this ties in somewhat with today's program. This is a Cherokee hunting jacket. Very few people have seen one. And this is one my wife made. I went over to the Cherokee Heritage Center probably 10 or 12 years ago. They had a class making the Cherokee hunting jackets. And what's unique about this, I looked at it and I thought, that reminds me when I was a kid watching the movies. Clark Gable and all these people, they call them smoking jackets. Lounge around, and this was luxury and everything. Well, Sequoyah wore one all the time. And a lot of the leaders of the Cherokee Nation, when they had their portraits painted, they always wanted to have their hunting jackets on, kind of a dress-up thing. And this idea came from Europe for these, probably around, I think it was in the 1700s, that the British took some of the Cherokee chiefs to England to meet the king and queen. And when they got over there, they were told, you can't wear your buckskin and things in there. They're too high class. So they said, you go into this wardrobe room and pick out. They had all kinds of wardrobe in there from all around the world, because people from all over the world would come in. Well, this was one of the jackets that they liked, and then the turban. Coming from the Arab worlds, they liked the turbans, so they wanted the jackets and the turbans to wear in to meet the king and queen. And then when they left, they were so impressed with this, they let them take them back home. And there's where it started. They started making their own clothes and dressing up with this. And I can't believe wearing this every day. but I've got pictures of Sequoyah, and here's another one. This is Jolley. It was an Arkansas Cherokee. He was a half-breed and had red hair. Probably the only chief in a long time to have red hair. But he has one of these jackets on. But what I want to talk to you today about is something that a lot of people are not aware. The subject is Sequoyah. And I want to tell you that he spent from 1818 to 1829 living in Arkansas. And a lot of people are not aware of that. There was a Cherokee reservation, government project. They opened it around 1817. It was here to 1829. Your boundaries were the Arkansas River from Marlton to Van Buren. And then north of the river, they ran an angle up towards Batesville, Arkansas, to the White River, and then they went the western boundary from Van Buren and an angle up to the White River across Harrison, Arkansas. So it's a large area. And the government was trying to sell the Cherokee on getting out of the east and moving into Arkansas, the whole tribe. However, just a few, approximately 3,000 or so, were living in Arkansas on that reservation in later years up to 1829. And the problem was, as it is for all the Indians at that time, was wherever they went, the whites come along and moved in on them, on their land. And that became a real problem. But getting back to this area of Sequoyah being here, he was born actually in Tennessee, and they have a museum in Lenore, Tennessee, that is called the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum. And what I'm interested in is what he accomplished and where he accomplished it, because it's been neglected. And Sequoyah started out working with his mother in a trading post, and he also became a silversmith and was excellent at it, was making good living doing silver spurs and bits for the white people and engraving. But the thing was, we have no proof of any of it because there's no markings. He didn't have any signature or a mark he used at the time. So if we found some of his work, we wouldn't know it if we saw it. But he lived around that area of Fort Loudon and Lenore, Tennessee for 40 years doing this. And then he went down to Willstown, which is now Fort Payne, Alabama, and lived there a short time. And then while he was down there, he had already started working on the Cherokee alphabet, is what the whites call it. It's the Syllabary is what the natives call it. But he was trying to invent a writing for the Cherokee. And the Cherokee people told him it's impossible. You can't do it. Only whites can do it. It's a secret thing that the whites got the honor of having this gift, and the Indians would never have it. But he was harassed and joked at when he bragged, "I'll find a way to get right." And this went on for years that he worked at this. In the process, he got so obsessed with this, he neglected his farm, and everything was growing up in weeds. He had a wife and children he was neglecting. She got tired of it, and one day when he was outside, she went over and picked up all of his papers, all of his work he had done for years, took it over to the fireplace, tossed it in, and burned it. She said she'd had all she could take of his neglect. And the funny thing is, it didn't even face Sequoyah. He was so determined, and he had memorized so much of that, he went ahead and started back to work just like nothing had happened. And it got to the point he was a joke, and he was criticized, and then it got really serious that they really got mad because he was neglecting his family and his duties at home with this obsession. And they went to the point thinking it's got to be witchcraft involved or something like that that's taken over his mind. But Sequoyah, in 1818, Chief John Jolley, that was in Tennessee, had a nice group of Cherokee living with him in that area on the Tennessee River. And he decided that he would move west to Arkansas. And basically it was because of the whites moving in. They were wanting to get further away from the whites because it says wherever they move in, they want everything to get out and return it. And so he got his tribe there together of 1,100 people. And of course the government was tickled to death because they wanted to get all the Cherokees out. They thought, well, if we can just get part of it moved, the rest will follow soon. And that was their theory. And Sequoyah was in the group, and he decided to go west. Chief John Jolley was related to him. I forgot exactly, but he decided he would take his family and go west to get away from the harassment he had been receiving at the Eastern Cherokee from Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia. And so they traveled, what's amazing, on 19 flatboats. They went up the Tennessee, the Ohio River, down the Mississippi, and up the Arkansas River to the Russellville area. And basically there was already some Cherokee that moved in Arkansas in the 1790s in that area. But now it was an official reservation. So they were supposed to be protected from the white population, keep them out. And this is something that seems to go on everywhere they move. You can't get away from them. They hound you. And so here we go. They move up here. They get settled. They built beautiful farms along the Arkansas River. The average family had a 5-acre plot. They were fenced. They were clean. They had cattle. They had hogs. They had chickens. And crops that they raised. And also peaches. They love peaches. And that's one of the things I talked to people down at Clarksville. I said, do you realize y'all had Johnson County Peach Festival and the first peach farmers in Arkansas were the Cherokee? No, we didn't know that. I said, because y'all took their farms and just continued when they were forced out in 1829. And I said, would it be nice if you invited some of the farmers that raised peaches from the Cherokee Nation to come back and have a celebration here in Clarksville? They said, no, we don't have time for things like that. I said, okay. And the other thing I offered to write the history, I took it to a lady in the newspaper, and she says, I happen to be in the state there, the county historian. I says, oh boy, I'm in for a lesson here. And I says, well, this is a story about how the Cherokee came to Arkansas here on Spandard Creek. And Chief John Jolley was one of them, had a large farm that raised peaches. And I says, your first peach farmer? She says, oh, yeah. And she says, I'm real familiar with the Indians that lived here and everything. And she says, I'll look over your article here and I'll make the necessary corrections. And so I says, okay. And then she goes on to tell me, yeah, the Sioux Indians and the Cheyenne used to live up here in North Arkansas. I grabbed my paper and got out of there real quick because they never darkened this part of the country. And I said, this is the expert. But she got hold of a piece of paper that was valuable, and she didn't even know it, and published it. 1821 in Arkansas was a factory at Spandler Bluff that hired Indians to work in the factory. And that was her story. She says, we don't know how many worked there, but she had a list of names. I says, my gosh, the woman doesn't have an idea what she's got. It's valuable. This is a list of the Cherokee that were living here that traded at a place called the Factory that was the United States Trading Post. They called it the Factor and Factory. Matthew Lyons was running it. He was well known back east as a senator or something. This is where the Indians brought all their furs because the government wanted the furs. They were selling to Europe and making a fortune off of furs out of this part of the country. And this list shows the people that had traded at that trading post. It was great for genealogy and history. We found some of the people we didn't know that were living in Arkansas. And then as I go down the list, I mean, it was 3 or 4 columns long. She published this, and I thought, man, I'm not going to tell her what she's done, but I can make copies and forward it to all the historic places that needed this information. And so as I'm going through there, I see this one name really popped up, the Raven. Sam Houston, adopted son of Chief John Jolley, was the Raven. He was visiting there in 1821 at Spandler at his stepfather's place, and they went over to the trading post to trade. And I says, hey, we know Sam Houston was here then. He also led in 1818 the ones that were traveling. He was in charge of the removal of that 1,100 of Chief John Jolley's people all the way from Tennessee to Arkansas. And so there's close ties there. And these are things that crop up. These people had no idea what they were. But this was such an important thing. And then Sequoyah got settled up near Scottsville. It's about 2 miles north of Scottsville, Arkansas, the Illinois Bayou. And his place was beautiful. The Illinois Bayou came south, makes a turn straight towards his cabin site, and then makes a 90-degree turn going south towards Russellville. And as you look across, there's rocks all across there that the water is running over, about 100 feet wide and probably 50 to 75 feet a lung coming towards you, and the water is running over there, and you can hear the sound of how peaceful water is running over just rocks and only dropping about this much each step down as it ran across, and it hits that and then turns south, going towards the Arkansas River. And I've sat probably where Sequoyah is set, and listened to that. I thought, man, I can see where he can really do some thinking here, because it's such a peaceful atmosphere, and the sound of the water, a little bit of leaves. There was a bluff about 15 foot high over the creek on the west bank where his cabin was, and there's not anybody allowed. It's private land. We can't tell people where it's located because the owner felt they'd be overrun with people digging up his property trying to find souvenirs. We did find a state archaeologist went with two of us and located the location by looking at 1840 documents. We were able to pinpoint by the description his wife gave. And also we had a picture that was taken back in the 1920s by a historian that found it also used that, and we were able to match up perfectly. So this is where Sequoyah had a salt works and a blacksmith shop, and started working back on the Syllabary again. And the thing that's amazing to me is he was all isolated. Most of the Cherokee were downstream. And there was one large village about 5 to 10 miles south of him that had another Cherokee chief had his own little village along the Illinois bound. And then in 1820, they requested and got the white mission to move in and build a school. And Sequoyah and a lot of them were against it, but the ones that were for it were mostly the half-breeds that were looking at something. They said, as long as we can't read English, we can't tell what these people are writing down in these treaties, because they will tell us one thing, and then when we go back, they say, no, that's not what it said. So they were said the only way we're going to survive is to be able to actually see what they have written down, so we can prove to them when they lie to us these things. The Cherokee did real good for up till 1827, and at that time they were having trouble with the west boundary because it had never been surveyed, and the government purposely left it open, hoping they could stretch and move the Indians on out to the west eventually. And they said that's open, so you're hunting, you can go into what is now Indian Territory in Oklahoma. You can hunt over there out of Arkansas. And in fact, that was called part of Arkansas way back. And so this is where the whites started filtering in. They said, you're on our land. I says, prove it. And the same old thing. They have to fight to prove everything, or fight to get what's right for them. And so they decided, hey, we're not going to go this way again. We're going to send a committee, a delegation to Washington, D.C. to get a survey made so we can prove where we are. So that included Sequoyah, and then he had a young cousin named David Brown there at Russellville that was at White Mission. David was a brilliant young man, and he was going to be secretary for the group. Also, the Cherokee agent, Duval, went with the group of 9 to Washington, D.C. And David Brown was very unique. He was sent to school at Northeast, I think, with Cornell, Cromwell, I believe, in a college back then up in the Northeast. He translated the Bible, the New Testament, into Cherokee for the missionaries. So the thing that's amazing is he didn't translate it from English. He translated from the Greek language. And he said that's further back than the English on the originality of the Bible. So he wanted to do that. So here's a Cherokee who could translate Greek into Cherokee. So that was amazing. And so he was an ideal person because he was very brilliant to go up there. And he was young, only in his 20s. And they got horses in D.C. They got up there and put them in a hotel. They took them out and shared a little bit of the city, showing all the things. One of the big things they liked to do, they said at that time, was take them to the piers to see all the battleships, take them to see all the guns, to make an impression on them. You don't want to mess with us. We'll wipe you out. We've got all of this military stuff there. That's one of the tours they took every Indian on. So they had that in mind psychologically. And then they let them sit in the hotel rooms. Wouldn't let them go anymore. They ended up sitting there 4 months in confinement. And these are people that have roam all over the woods and live all out here in the country in the open air, sitting in everything in small rooms with 4 walls. And it was driving them crazy. And so they wrote May the 24th that they were there from February to May 24th and hadn't got to speak to anyone. And so they sent a letter said, we'd like to get our business taken over as soon as possible. Please make an appointment for us. Well, the Indian Bureau says, we're going to let them sit a while. And April the 2nd, they come around and says, hey, we've got an idea here. If you will give your land back to us, we will give you land over in Oklahoma away from the whites. And they'll never be able to get on your land. Well, that's the same story they've had all along. It didn't work. So they says, no, they weren't authorized to even make a treaty. They sat there till May, and I forgot, May 6th, May 16th, somewhere along in there. And they finally had all they could take. And to get out of Washington, D.C., they had to sign this treaty because they had no way to travel on their own. The government was providing transportation and things. And they signed the treaty to give up the Arkansas reservation. And that was, the whites had been pushing an assault for the state, known as the Arkansas Territory, on the governor that was appointed. In 1824 said, they went and met with the Indians and says, we've got to get them out of here. It's not going to work with whites and Indians won't make us good here. So we need to move them west. So they started planning this in 1824 and didn't get it done until 1829. But that was on their minds, and that's what was transpiring. They got back home, and needless to say, they weren't very well welcome home. They were looked at as possible hanging going on because they had signed away their land, and they had all these nice farms. They had rock homes, brick homes, in some of these farms of the wealthier Cherokee. Some of them had slaves working for them. They had beautiful things. According to the 1819 report of Thomas Nuttall, who's a naturalist that traveled the Arkansas River doing research going into Oklahoma. He said they had the best that Europe had along there. Their clothes were intermixed with European clothes and the native clothing, but they had furniture and everything like that that was really up to date. Okay, and this is a little before all this was transpiring, and Sequoyah completed his syllabary a few years before the end of this 1829 period, actually 1821. He'd come up with an idea. I'd been using, tried pictures of every word. Well, that would require thousands of pictures, he said. But he tried for 12 years and finally come up with the formula that would work in the Cherokee language. That was a symbol for each syllable in their language. And it only took 85 symbols to complete a written language. He did that in 1821. His brother-in-law learned the writing, and his daughter, Yoka, who was 6 years old, learned to write. At that point, he felt he was ready to present this to the Cherokee Nation. So he contacted them. It says, basically, it's his cousin, Chief John Jolley, and Walter Weber had a trading post there at the junction of the Illinois and the Arkansas River, was another cousin. And that's where a lot of the people went to visit and trade, and he felt comfortable going there. So he made arrangements to go down and demonstrate. And they says, okay, we'll let you. We don't believe it's possible, we'll let you try. He went out and demonstrated. The way they worked it was his daughter stayed outside. She was watched to make sure she couldn't see or hear anything going on inside. And Sequoyah got a piece of paper and he gave one to each of the Cherokee leaders and says, okay, you hold this for me in a minute. He says, okay, give me one word. And this one guy says, so he went over, wrote it down on the paper, picked it up and laid it over there. And he asked the next one. He wrote it down. He would write the name of who gave him each word. So he had a stack of papers with one word on it. And then he set them over there and went out. His daughter came in, picked up the papers, and she read what each person had given as a word. And they were shocked. They couldn't believe this. And the first thing they thought of was witchcraft. That must have been a popular thing back then among the natives as well as the whites. And it says it had to be witchcraft. There's no other way it could be done. So they had to have a trial. And whenever somebody's accused of witchcraft, and they got warriors to be in the jury, and then Sequoyah and his daughter Yoka had to go through routines, showing proof of this and that, trying it over and over, doing it different ways, different times. Finally, they says, hey, he's got it. This is working. And the first thing he says, we want to work. And the thing that was amazing is he was able to teach them enough to write a little bit and read in 3 days' time. And they were writing in their own language and being able to read it. And he taught the Arkansas Cherokee, or called the Western Cherokee, which were a separate group from the Eastern Cherokee, the main part down in Georgia. Taught them, and then they wrote letters to the relatives back east, and to the chief John Jolley dictated a letter to Sequoyah. He wrote it, they sealed it, he carried it to the chief of the Eastern band, and opened it, and the chief had to break the seal, and then he read it to them, and then the others got their letters, and they realized there was things in there only family members would know, that this was real. And the first thing he says, teach us, we want to learn to write. And he spent from 1821 around 1824 traveling around. They paid him to teach the people down in that area. And they said they would go along the road. You'd see two Indians sitting down here, one's teaching the other how to write. So they would really just like a wildfire pass through the thing. Okay, now then we get to a funny situation here. After a couple of years, 80% of the Cherokee Nation can read and write their own language. Okay, then we look down here, 35% of whites can read and write English. These are the illiterate savages now. They turned the table on literacy. And here we have Indians that are more literate than most of the white people. And so this was quite a change and shock probably to some of the white people that they seen this happening. But I I'm always amazed, this happened down in Russellville, Lake Dardanelles, where is under, trading post is underwater now, about a mile west of the Dardanelle State Park Visitor Center, out in the middle of the water, would be where that was taking place. But I am amazed that the state of Arkansas and Polk County do not even recognize this fact. They totally ignore if they hear it, because of some historians way back had written that Sequoyah didn't move to Arkansas until 1824. Well, that's true the second time around, but they missed the first one. Somebody didn't do their research. And some people have put down that, and the state of Arkansas goes by that he wasn't in Arkansas when he completed his syllabary. So this is the only man in the history of the world who couldn't read or write to develop a written language. One man in history, and it happened. Polk County, Arkansas, and they don't recognize it, and sometimes they're going to have it. What's the result of this? Look, it improved. All the tribes were able to use the same idea of the syllabary, and all the tribes started learning to write and read in their own language because of Sequoyah's work. He was highly respected. All tribes know who Sequoyah was shortly after he had completed the syllabary. And he was a hero as far as the Cherokee. He was eager to get back east to show them and prove to them that he had accomplished what they said was impossible. They had harassed him all those years for it. So he kind of got even with it. But the thing we look at, okay, it affected native tribes and everything, but it goes further than that. This results of his study in developing using syllables with a symbol went worldwide. 65 written languages around the world are the results of Sequoyah's work. Cherokee in Africa had gone to Africa. He showed them over there. Next thing you know, the African natives started taking up the idea and developed their written language. And it even ended up in one little area of China. The people used that to develop a written language. So we don't know how much further it goes. I had seen some research that said there was 120 or 160. I couldn't find that when I went back. I've got so much stuff stacked up, and I couldn't find what university had done the research back then. But here we have all of this happening in Arkansas. And I went down trying to get something done, and Dr. Littlefield at the Sequoyah National Research Center, who's probably an expert on all the trail of tears and much of the native deals. They have the largest collection of written native newspapers, books, magazines in the world are in their archives, their UALR. And so he said to me, I says, we need to get something done. He says, lots of love. And he knew what he was talking about. As I went, I said, my first thing would be to try to get it. And I talked to Daniel Chief that's over in Salisaw that's done this. This is a picture of a statue of Sequoyah bronze. And it's 9.5 feet tall. This one is at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah. And I wanted something like this. I thought that we are to do something in Arkansas. So I decided maybe the state park of Lake Dardanelle would be a good location, since that's close to where he introduced it. And we can't put it on land up where he lived. And so I spoke to the Historical Society of Polk County about this, and the only problem is they're all like me, they're old. And they're not a nonprofit, and needed a nonprofit organization to raise the funds. And we were going to get a super good price because Dan was going to be able to make it using the original molds, but with some minor changes that would be the same. And then I thought, well, I'll approach some of the Russellville area people because I said this is something they can benefit from tourism-wise. I thought I'll do the old white man routine and look at the dollars and see if I can get them excited. I tried to get a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce to present the program and explaining step by step what to do and how they can accomplish things. And they wouldn't give me an appointment to be conducted. Okay, I worked with Main Street Ozark and doing a Trail of Tears historic marker on the river down there. I designed for them. And we used them as a source to raise the funds and take care of the financial things and the legal stuff. And it worked great. So they said, why don't you go down to Russellville and talk to them down there? And I said, okay, because this will affect their downtown businesses. I made an appointment. When I went down there, the woman had gone to Little Rock and never notified me of any change or anything. So I did a program for the assistant and gave me a copy of the things. She says, this is really great. I'm a history major, just graduated from Tech down here. She says, this is really some great stuff. She was really excited. I never heard a word from it. So I looked at it and I says, well, I think I figured this out. Nobody wants to take on a job and take on any extra work when there's not any extra money for them. They just get paid for every deal. So let's push this under the carpet. We won't have to deal with it. So that's kind of the feeling I got trying to do that. And I had suggestions. I says, okay, when you look at go into Walmart, what do you see? There's what's on this aisle, English, Spanish. Why not have English or Cherokee, then English? Because the Cherokee were here first. Put the street signs in Cherokee symbols. And I said we can put a smaller statue of Sequoyah downtown, and we can have the shops and sell portraits of Sequoyah. They can frame, they can sell jewelry things that the Cherokee have made, all things Cherokee, none of the Chinese stuff. But bring this in, I says, okay, you got everybody coming off the interstate's going to drive down Highway 7 to get to Lake Nordell State Park. They've got to go all the way through your town and have these things all in. Okay, you've got to eat places. Why not a Sequoyah burger made out of buffalo meat? I says, so I'm trying to stimulate some thinking here on the things, and so I really didn't get anywhere. But I thought, well, I'll sit back and see. Well, the Cherokee Nation now is going to be, looks like, putting a casino and hotel in. They've got a fantastic design just north of the I-40 intersection on the east side of Russellville, if they get the final approval. So I've sent my book through friends that are connected with the Cherokee Nation business deals. I says, why not let them try to put something in besides the casino and hotel, have the deal recognizing Sequoiah's accomplishment and everything that happened right here in the Russellville, Arkansas. And so I don't know how that will go. That I figure they'd have the money and the backing to do it if they wanted to do that. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But then, as we get back to this forced removal out of Arkansas, they all load up their wagons with hand wagons, most of them did, and some used canoes and moved over to Salisal and all along the Arkansas River area, the Weber's Falls, which is Walter Weber's location. in, you put a trading post in. But they all moved west, and then some of them come back, they couldn't carry everything first time. When they came back to try to get their other possessions, the whites had already taken over. Basically, the way you got a farm in Arkansas was by gun. Whoever had the most gunfire got what he wanted. You get that farm, this deal. Here you are walk in with not putting a dime out. You're given a 2-story brick farmhouse, maybe 15, 20-acre farm that's in perfect, neat, clean condition for nothing. So when they came back, and Sequoyah came back, he had 10 kennels he used for his salt works. And they left, left some goats or ducks or something. I can't remember what it was, according to their claim. He went back, and the whites wouldn't even let him on his property. He says, hey, this is our property. You stay off of here. If you want anything, you pay for it. And so he wasn't going to buy something he already paid for once, so he turned around and left. And that happened to a number of the people that went back once they got him out of there. And some of them were actually walked out at gunpoint before they were ready to move. So this has happened. Now they're over here. Well, this Sequoyah was really a statesman. He was trying to bring peace. When the Trail of Tears was implemented in all the eastern Cherokee and Alabama and Georgia were forced to move out. And one of the reasons the Georgia militia pretty well took over some of the deals. Rich Joe Vann was the richest man in America, Cherokee plantation owner. He was marched out of his own gunpoint. And they took them all out, took their land away from them. But it was amazing. Well, the first group that moved to Oklahoma prior to the removal was what they called the Treaty Party. And those were some that signed the treaty trying to illegally to move their people to Oklahoma area, because these were the ones that had been in Washington. They were the highly educated ones. They had seen what it was like, and they saw that the U.S. government was determined they were going to get that land, and they didn't care if they had to kill every Indian in the country to get it. That was their attitude, and they saw that. The average tribal member had no idea what was going on over there. And they resented these people that signed a treaty, hoping the rest of them would all move and save some lives. Well, they lost lives on the trail anyway. But those people were a separate group, and they had to stay away from the others because they'd kill them if they saw them, because they felt those people that had signed that treaty illegally would, or the reason they were forced out. But they would have been forced out anyway. And the key thing that happened in Georgia that the Cherokee had tried to keep hidden for a long time, and were able to keep it out of the sight of the white people, they found gold on Indian land in Georgia a long ago. And that was the key thing. The militia went in, they had to get those Indians out immediately. The Indians couldn't take anything off the property, it was not theirs anymore, it belonged to them. And so that was probably the biggest push, and the word got marched to get them out, get them out, get them out. And so they started rounding them up into depots, they call them, and holding them for wagon trains west to be organized and moved out. Well, when they got in the Oklahoma or in the territory, there was resentment between the Western Cherokee in Arkansas and the main tribe. The Western Cherokee wanted to assimilate the main tribe, and they wanted to integrate the governments because they already had a government, they already had elected officials and everything going, and they had constitution and bylaws written up. But John Ross, who was the chief of the main band, said no way. They were the largest number, and they were going to be elected officials. Sequoyah tried, like everything, to try to smooth this over, try to get meetings. Let's work this out. We're all one people. And that poor guy worked himself down, trying to, and he ended up dying, trying to bring Cherokee from Mexico that had gone down there to get away from all this mess, again with, try to get them to come back and join. He wanted all of his people under one umbrella here, and now scattered all over the world. And that was, he died in Mexico, near San Fernando, Mexico. He was buried down there. I've talked to his descendants. They know where his grave is now. They've been proven it was him, but they want his body left down there and not being moved. And they have to keep undercover again in order to keep people from coming down and destroying things. So it's a sad situation we have things. But there's some interesting things. We've got some connections to Sequoyah here in Fort Smith. And one of the first connections was a gentleman by the name of John F. Wheeler. John F. Wheeler was a teenager and was working in New Echota, Georgia, and set the type for the very first Cherokee Phoenix newspaper published in 1828, which was half English and half Cherokee. And I've got a copy of it in case somebody wants to look at those up here. And he went on and stayed on there. Elias Boudinot, which real name was Buck Wadey, General Stan Wadey's brother, was the editor. And he took the Elias Boudinot name, and he was highly educated when he took over. And that was the guy who was his benefactor back in the Northeast, and made him eligible for all the education and paid for everything to help him. So he, in his honor, he took that name. Well, John F. Wheeler ended up married his younger sister later on. And so he was all white, but his sister was Indian. So he's involved now in the Cherokee. And then Elias had signed that peace treaty, and he had to leave early before the removal. They got out because they figured they better get out while they can. Because if they were intermixed with the forced removal, there would be a bunch of dead Cherokee along the route. And so he moved out, and with the missionary, and Elias Boudinot moved up to Park Hill, which is near Tahlequah, and it's where the Cherokee Heritage Center is located now. But while they were up there publishing and everything for a couple of years, it was 1839, after everybody had moved to the Indian Territory, there was an assassination plan for all that had signed that treaty. And so that included Elias Boudinot, Stan Wadey, and two of their cousins that were living in North Arkansas. And so they assassinated Elias Boudinot, and immediately John F. Wheeler says, well, his sister's my wife, says, they're liable to come after us next. So he moved to Van Buren, started a newspaper in Van Buren for a short time, and later moved on into Fort Smith and started the first newspaper in Fort Smith. So he's publishing at Fort Smith, and then he really was active in politics and in business in Fort Smith. He had an auction house, a real estate business. He became the mayor of Fort Smith. He was a representative in the state legislature for Fort Smith for a term. And at the end, they were called a judge, so we wondered if he was county judge or what kind of judge he was. But he died here in Fort Smith, is buried out at the Oak Cemetery. Got a real nice family plot out there. His first wife, that was the Cherokee, died, and they had 4 or 5 children, I think. And she wasn't that old, but there's a marker out there, and the People Oak Cemetery says there's nobody buried there. It's just a stone. And we cannot figure out where was she buried. No record of it. So that's kind of weird. Okay, we've got Wheeler Avenue named after John F. Wheeler. And then over at Salisol, he was involved with, a lot of the families and descendants were involved with the Salisol newspaper. And one of them, Jim Wady, Mayo, which was one of those descendants from the Wady family, died. He was the owner and editor of the Salisol Times just a month or so ago. But then we've got another thing that happened. I found that W.J. Weaver operated a store down at the riverfront, which was called Commercial Street, for the Birney brothers, which were related to my family way back. And Sequoyah used to come to trade there. And they'd come in, they'd stay over on the other side, they'd gather a group, they'd get a canoe, and they'd come across the Arkansas River. They would always camp out over on the other side for a little while, so the group up got together and they could get enough to ride over on the canoes. And some of them would spend the day over there, and others just back and forth. Sequoyah traded chickens, eggs, furs, and honey for their needs there at Fort Smith. And the gentleman said that he always wore the hunting jacket like that and a turban every time he saw him coming up Fort Smith. So there's another connection, the business of Fort Smith. And then we've got something that's really unique. You can probably look at it a little closer afterwards. This is a picture of a girl named Benny Ream. Benny Ream lived in Fort Smith 1857 to 1861. Her father was a surveyor. Then they moved to Washington, D.C. And this picture was taken of her when she was 18 years old. She is the first woman ever to be commissioned by the United States Senate to do a statue of Abraham Lincoln that was going to be in the Capitol building in life size. And she had a sitting with him 30 minutes every day. She would go and sit and sketch. And there was a lot of problems. First, her age, and then she was a cute girl. They said the senators were all swept away by her looks, didn't use any sense, and the woman had never been asked to sculpture anything or paint anything in Washington. That was an official thing. So that she proved them all that she could do the job. She did several other statues that were located around Washington, D.C., besides this one in the Capitol building. And then in 1912, she was commissioned by the state of Oklahoma for the statue of Sequoyah that was to go into the Capitol building's statuary room. And she died in 1914, and they hadn't completed the statue yet, and they had another artist complete it. But here we go. We've got all kinds of ties with Sequoyah, and even in Washington. And here we've got this down here in Russellville. The only place Sequoyah is recognized Over in Tennessee, at his birthplace, over in Sallisaw, at his last cabin. The 2 cabins he built in Arkansas were taken down by the landowner, not knowing he was trying to preserve the wood, not knowing what he had. He ended up selling one of those cabins. I don't know. He said somebody Russell bought it to use for do some decorating in their den or something with wood. In a new home being built out there. So here we have all of these things happening in Arkansas, and we don't have a thing to show for it. It's really sad. You know, I'm thinking, even if they, just for the fact that this happened and everything, just look at the tourism point that could be brought in for the state if they would recognize it. That this is an event, you know, happened in one place in the world, happened in Polk County, Arkansas, and no place else. And we don't recognize it. And the county doesn't recognize it. So that's my story I wanted to share with you.